Affect Autism, 10 years and counting, committed to autism advocacy, empowering you with DIR Floor Time. Welcome to the We Chose Play podcast. As we celebrate 10 years of Affect Autism, let's revisit some of our older blog posts, giving them a fresh update. In this episode, you'll hear a renewed version with updated insights and new perspectives. Let's dive in. You're listening to the We Chose Play podcast from Affect Autism, where affect is the #1 tool we use in supporting development through playful interactions. Stumbling blocks in floor time at FEDC 1, facilitating shared attention and regulation. December 10th, 2015. Last time we went through an example of a floor time session, and many more will follow. This time, we'll focus on some stumbling blocks that parents come across when trying to play with their children and how you can move past them. We will focus on the first functional emotional developmental capacity, FEDC 1, since it presents the foundation of development. Disclaimer: these are general suggestions and guidelines. Context is important and can impact how to handle a stumbling block. Children can also exhibit certain behaviors at home or with you that differ from those at school or in other settings with others. Please contact a professional for specific recommendations with your own child. At Functional Emotional Developmental Capacity, or FEDC 1, self-regulation and interest in the world. Child is dysregulated. Meltdowns. Please see the co-regulation blog post from a few posts ago about how to handle meltdowns by co-regulating. Regulation is the foundation for being able to move along developmentally. Tips. Give yourself permission to be frustrated, but do not allow yourself to act frustrated. Be soothing and easy on your child, realizing they are under stress, and you are there to support your child through it, not to add to it. Now is not the time to worry about discipline or to instruct your child to obey commands. If your child is comforted by sensory input, such as a back rub, use what helps comfort your child. Going more slowly, especially if trying to transition your child from one activity to another, helps the child anticipate what is coming next. Some people find that using visual pictures helps the child see what will come next. When possible, try to avoid situations and circumstances that you know will be hard for your child and induce a meltdown if you will not have the opportunity to co-regulate with your child to support them through it. If you do have the time, it's good to take the opportunity to work through the emotion or challenging situation with the child so they know it's okay to be upset, that they can overcome it, and that life goes on. If we don't present those challenges, then the child is never really mastering this first developmental capacity. Try to understand if the child is having a meltdown as a result of sensory issues, example, the environment is too overwhelming for them, such as being too loud, or if it is a result of fear, which stimulates the flight or survival response in the brain. Please see the box link to Jennifer Caleri's CALM method, CALM, from the co-regulation blog post, in which she describes how her technique switches the child out of a flight response. Give the child control. A technique discussed by Dr. Stanley Greenspan is that of learning a child's boundaries. If a child tantrums when you approach them, you say, "Oh, okay," and back up until they calm down a bit. And then you approach again, giving them a choice of 2 options related to what they're doing, such as, "Can I see your train?" or "No." Eventually, if you are gradual and let the child be in control of whether or not you approach, you learn where the child's comfort zone is to engage with you. By retreating and approaching again over and over, gently, you can also prolong the interaction between you and your child. Child seems to ignore all attempts at interacting or seems in their own world. Please see the Nuts and Bolts of Floor Time blog post from a few times ago for how to use playful obstruction to entice the child into an interaction by being a playful, fun barrier to what they are doing while following their lead and using high affect to get their attention. Tips. You can create anticipation by slowly approaching them and telling them so. Example, "Here I come," in a playful voice. Always make sure the child is in charge of their body and you are not forcing them to do anything. You want this to be playful and let the child be the one who gets to feel like they run the show, and you follow their lead so they will be motivated to keep playing with you. You know you are doing well when the child is having fun and comes back to you for more. Child repeats the same action or actions over and over. Some children engage in repetitive behaviors as a sensory need when they get overloaded to regulate. For some, it's relaxing. Repetitive behavior can also be due to a child's challenges with motor planning or being able to sequence actions. If you recall from an earlier blog post, Dr. Greenspan's affect diathesis postulated that our children have trouble connecting affect to motor planning abilities. Our children might have many ideas of how to play, but don't know how to execute those plans, so it's easier to just repeat what they know. Tips. If your child's repetitive behavior is due to a sensory need, for example, stimming, try to anticipate when they will reach their limit and provide the sensory calming they prefer, or just let them stim if it's comforting to them. A sensory lifestyle can help prevent overload by providing sensory input throughout the day tailored to your child's individual needs. If your child's repetitive behavior is due to challenges with what to do next, treat what the child is doing as purposeful and join the child in what they're doing. Use high affect, such as an overly interested tone and facial expressions, and essentially making it into a game. You might find that your child will stop and look at you doing what they are doing, and then you can take turns. Once you have the child's engagement, you can try to steer them to a more interactive activity or a more constructive way of meeting that sensory need, such as providing sensory soothing items such as jewelry to bite on rather than biting on their shirt, for instance. Although my son never wants any of that. He preferred his shirt collar. Child is violent to themselves or others or doing something dangerous. According to Dr. Gordon Neufeld, aggression is the eruption of emotion from being frustrated with something you can't change. Until you can accept this fact, you are unable to adapt and move on, so you get stuck in a frustration loop. Regardless of if he is correct or not, this is an emotion challenge and not a behavior challenge, so disciplining the child or instructing the child to control their behavior will not be an effective strategy. It will only add to the child's frustration. Again, please refer to the co-regulation blog post about how to come alongside the child's frustration and add in a tempering element by emphasizing with the child, I can see that something isn't working for you and you have frustration to get out. Let me help you find a way. Tips. The more you can help a child label their emotions and reciprocate gestures with you, the easier it will be for them to handle their frustration, although this can take years. At this first developmental capacity, the child is still in fight or flight mode with their emotions, so you cannot expect emotional control. Provide a pillow, a doll, or some object the child can be aggressive with. You can also provide an alternative behavior, such as tapping on the shoulder or giving a high five instead of hitting another child, for instance. This, of course, is easier said than done, but experiment with what works for your child. You will want to determine if the child is being aggressive due to sensory overload or out of defense, and intervene appropriately. Giving the child choice and control will help alleviate defensive aggression. Child becomes overly anxious and or overcome by sensory input, for example, covers ears and screams. Anxiety goes hand in hand with autism so much of the time. Anxiety is stress and comes from feeling like you have a lack of control. We do so much for our children, and often against their will, brushing teeth comes to mind, that they will often feel a lack of control. Tips. You can help your child feel in control by giving them more control so they feel more confidence. For instance, if the child is scared by a loud noise, you can let them hold a dial that they can turn up or down to adjust the volume of the noise themselves. Dr. Stanley Greenspan has said that giving children control helps them expand their thinking abilities. If you're like me, you're already thinking ahead and asking about children who seem to be so controlling that they demand everything to be exactly as they expect, or they get very anxious and upset. Children can show what looks like rigidity to some at each of the developmental capacities, and all you can do is keep working on expanding and challenging them along developmentally by working on having more and more circles of meaningful interactions in floor time sessions. Hopefully now you have some more tools to support your interactions with your child when coming against some stumbling blocks at the very first functional emotional developmental capacity, or FEDC1, self-regulation and interest in the world. We will continue to look at more developmental capacities soon, but next time a guest blogger will tell us about motor planning and sequencing, which is so often a challenge for so many of our children. Thank you for listening. This episode of We Chose Play was made possible with the generous financial support of Affect Autism's members and of the International Council on Development and Learning, ICDL.com. If you liked this episode, please share it with someone, like and subscribe, sign up for the newsletter at affectautism.com, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Instagram. Find out more at affectautism.com. Until next time, here's to choosing play and experiencing joy every day.